Before we get into the video, please consider subscribing, liking, and clicking the Discord link down below. Lots of cool stuff going on down there, as we basically talk about nerd stuff and whatever else. That said, enjoy.
For those who read the title, no, I am not the uninformed contrarian. I'm about to rip him a new asshole.
And I won't be denied. All I got left is my pride, and I will rise up, breaking out, breaking down, break the rules, break the ground. Had no chance, now it's gone. A new day, a new day.
What's up, everyone? Gojin the Makai Phantom approaching ya. I don't think I need to do an introduction for this one on what this movie is, because let's face it, whether or not you're a hardcore Godzilla fan, a casual, or anything of that nature, you know what Godzilla Minus One is.
Film is being hailed as a masterpiece worldwide, and it's currently in third place in the American box office. Which might not sound like much, but remember the fact, this is a foreign movie on a far smaller budget than anything to come out of Hollywood. And the fact it's even putting Disney to shame is absolutely mind-blowing. You also gotta take into account not everyone wants to read subtitles, yet it is still managing to pull such numbers. And Toho is hardly even advertising it here. I think it's the massive praise it has from critics that grabbed the attention of so many folks, curious about what all the hubbub is about. It literally held a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, but everything changed till none other than Adam Does Movies decided to ruin it.
You maniac! You burned it up! Darn you!
But on this channel, we're all about hearing others out to see if we can, at the very least, come to an understanding or even have our own points challenged. But we don't really need to challenge Adam because he already is that mentally. But video we're looking at is titled Godzilla Minus One Kinda Sucks, with the thumbnail that uses a quote that has me admittedly curious, but not to the extent of Adam's sexuality, Godzilla Minus Fun. Which I gotta ask, is this trauma we're seeing? I feel like minus fun is more in reference to his sex life than the actual film, which in that case, I have to say, don't worry, Adam, Yamazaki wasn't poking fun at you. That's just the rest of us. A 13-year-old white high school girl.
But all that said,
Go right into it!
In 1998, America took its first stab at Godzilla. It was big, it was loud, it was dumb, it was overlong.
Sounds more like you're describing your bowl while you're sitting in the other room crying and listening to it than the Godzilla movie.
And yet, I think I would rather go back and watch that than the Godzilla Minus One film I just left.
And you know why he's saying that? Because even though 98 isn't a great blockbuster at even what it's trying to do, it's still more in line in what he's looking for out of a movie. Minus One is too serious and thought-provoking. He doesn't like that. It made him feel things he hasn't felt since the school bully stuffed their... I'm not gonna go there. He doesn't deserve that.
Now, I know, starting him on such a disgusting tone is sure to put a few people off, and they're gonna say, I don't need to listen to another word this jerk has to say, and that's fine, you can leave if you're thin-skinned.
Bro, half your thumbnails, you literally look like you just walked in on your girl deep-throating Godzilla himself while Final Wars was on television. Get off that f***ing high horse, she isn't jealous, she's just gonna call the cops.
Or you can stick around, subscribe to the channel. I post tons of honest movie reviews, criticisms, fun roasts, things of that nature.
No, I don't think I will.
And I just want to say, I want to get it all out there, okay? I'm not going to pretend to be some hardcore Godzilla fan. I'm a movie fan. I like watching movies. I did not grow up on Godzilla.
well, for a matter of fact, Adam, my good sir, I so happen to be both. I'm a major film buff with a passion for delving into art, analyzing the goal, and how said goal is executed. But Godzilla is my favorite franchise.
It has more diversity than most, and the most consistency in my opinion. But it isn't like I can't tell the flaws an entry has. The Monsterverse, while has been fun, is also super flawed. Each entry is full of them with the exception of Monarch Legacy of Monsters so far, and Minus One is the best Godzilla movie we got since goddamn Shin Godzilla, though the animes are pretty well made too.
This movie is post-war Japan. We have a kamikaze pilot who's down on his luck because he didn't in fact kamikaze himself. You had one job, dude. You had one job. He chickens out right away when the movie starts up and he gets his first appearance of Godzilla, and it doesn't go over well. He's not thrilled about what he's seen. As an aside, kamikaze pilots, that's one of the few, I would say, professions you really can't fake, right? You walk into the house and the wife's like, hey, how was work today? It was okay. It wasn't bad. Oh, really? So you didn't get fired, huh? Because you're still here. So obviously, not great at your job. I mean, I don't think you can really fake that one.
Wait. So you're mad because the soldier whose duty was to literally die for his country had enough humanity in him to quote-unquote cower down? What the fuck is wrong with you?
That isn't bad writing, that's just a character arc you didn't like. That is why he suffers with PTSD, which quite honestly goes deeper than you just failing at art critique. You're acting like if someone has a basic human instinct and is forced to feel guilty because they didn't sacrifice themselves is whiny. Not to mention he couldn't even be sure if that would have worked on Godzilla. I'm not gonna wish for anything horrible to happen to this dude because he isn't Professor Otaku.
Anyway, imagine if you were in a world war and everybody expected you to die in the name of your country because Big Daddy government said so. Now, to be fair, I can actually respect this critique if this wasn't a story literally about his growth through post-war Japan.
He goes from depressed and traumatized to somewhat accepting of himself after finding a crew and family who gets him, with still a bit of PTSD that gets triggered during certain events, to a character who believed in his potential, pushing Shikushima to suck it up and be all about doing what his job was to begin with, but also accomplishing that in a way that doesn't harm the message it's going for. That is objectively good acting and writing.
He is miserable. I don't like this character. He's constantly chips are down. He's constantly like making bad decisions, or sometimes they're actually good decisions, but he thinks they're bad. It's just not a pleasant character to watch. And his arc is so cliche and predictable that it's just like, what are we doing here? This is the best we could conjure up.
Oh, come on, dude. Now I'm really having trouble taking you seriously. Originality is the most boring and surface-level form of critique in the entire book of media literacy. If we're talking about the Hallmark Channel, where every movie pretty much follows the same beats, sure. But you're not going to find a story that utilizes these arcs to the same way as Godzilla Minus One, with the closest exception being the 1954 original, which this is a loose remake of.
Also, have you gave it a thought that maybe, just maybe, these cliches are here because these are very real problems in a very grounded story? Shit! Crazy, I know. Godzilla represents real-world problems. Not like that wasn't the intention with the very first movie.
And now some people are saying, hey, Adam, what are you expecting, Citizen Kane? You know, the old cliched argument back. That's lame and it's pointless. No, obviously I'm not expecting that.
I find it very funny he mentions this when Minus One holds quite a close tomato meter to that, with the general audiences praising it as a genuine masterpiece of cinema, alongside that of the 1954 original.
I'm expecting a big, cool-ass movie with lots of destruction and maybe some stakes.
See, there's your problem. You came in not expecting a dark, serious tale like Citizen Kane, but something like the Monsterverse that's primarily action-oriented. Which obviously there's nothing wrong with. Those have their place just as much as these films. I consider Final Wars a masterpiece because it nails that kind of movie with honestly better characters than the entire Monsterverse. But Godzilla began as a heavy cautionary tale of nukes and war. Sure, there's some popcorn flicks that came out after, and even most of the other character-driven ones aren't to the same degree of heavy, but that doesn't matter. They're still majorly focused on their cast with the subject matter they tackle. As for your implication on the lack of stakes, what? Minus One has them throughout the damn movie! Were you even paying attention? The beginning of Godzilla attacking Odo Island Jurassic Park style, the fucking ship chase with our cast trying to escape in the middle of nowhere, the famous train bite with people including one of the mains in it, to Shikushima almost sacrificing himself to Godzilla. Bro, what kind of wrong-ass opinion is this?
And the effects and the explosions are cool a little bit, but they're not there that long, and we've seen this a billion times, so it's not really holding much weight.
Again, welcome to the world of Toho Godzilla movies. The action isn't throughout. Hell, you can even say the same about the MonsterVerse entries before GVK. I didn't even think Godzilla had that little of screen time. I'd say we at least get 15 minutes of his presence. And it's spread out in a way so he feels like he's here much longer. Kinda like your mom when Daddy Tate comes to bed.
There is one sequence that I think is pretty great, and that's when they're out on the ocean, and they're kind of doing this Jaws-esque scenario where they're dropping bombs and they're trying to kill this sucker, and it's not going well, obviously. That part's great. It looks really cool. There's a couple underwater camera shots that I think are fantastic, and it gives you this kind of scary vibe, and I wish they would have actually gone with that instead of just a one-off camera shot from an ocean perspective. Take me down there a little bit.
Anybody want to guess this is his exact way of approaching women? I don't know if using incel tactics is illegal, but this video should be for spewing such bullshit.
As it stands, Godzilla's just a one-dimensional creature that destroys stuff, and he walks to the next thing and blows it up. It's mindless, it has no agenda, it has no motive.
First off, he very much does. Dark, cold, and subtle.
But that's how Godzilla been since the original. The nuclear bomb personified, and that is straight up displayed with his consistently pissed off face and how he straight up targets people like Yamazaki's favorite incarnation, GMK. It's just a little bit less expressive in this case, since again, he's the personification of the atomic bomb. A force of nature here to punish mankind for our crimes of war.
Which can be cool and scary, but there's no real build up to him ever. He's just there.
I mean, I would love to know what the fuck all this is then.
Other supporting characters are serviceable, they're fine, they all look good, they play their part fine. The main lead though is just a sad sack.
Yes, this is a drama horror movie about a kamikaze pilot conditioned to believe he shouldn't be alive. I don't know what the fuck you were wanting that wouldn't defeat the entire point of the movie. Would you make this review on something like Citizen Kane because it doesn't have big monster? There's movies that approach a similar theme to Minus One without the Godzilla in it. Why should it have to follow rules of films like the MonsterVerse when that's not what it aims to be?
And there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of war-torn hero stuff. There's a lot of baggage about the war and not so much about Godzilla.
Because that's the type of movie it's trying to be. And yes, Godzilla does connect to the plot, entirely for a matter of fact. He's what caused Shikushima's PTSD. And he's a current threat Japan has to put up with, given the war is over. Just because he isn't on screen causing mass destruction 24/7 does not mean the plot isn't about Godzilla. I'm starting to think this isn't an educated opinion, but more so a vent of it being 2023 and movies still ain't catering to his big monster fetish. Adam, if you love monster carnage so much, just watch hentai.
I guess the trailers really hyped me up, which is their job. But they presented a package that I just did not see on the screen. I felt a little bit lied to. I didn't know what the story was. I imagined it was going to be, a little bit more interesting than it was. They had a decent idea, okay? I kind of like the idea of a war-torn kamikaze pilot having to make amends with himself and to please those around them, but fight his own internal war.
What the fuck did you just say?
You hear that, guys? He liked the concept so much, it's suddenly a problem he chose not to die for his country out of pure instinct and wanted more big monster go burr action. Come on, man. The trailers made it more than obvious what type of film Minus One was gonna be. There's a reason many were speculating it was a remake of the OG, which while it isn't as close as me and others have anticipated, we weren't wrong.
I give you my honest opinion, leaving the theater. And while I'm there, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm excited for this movie. The first act, the first 15 minutes, pretty cool, pretty bold. I like this direction. And then bam, it hits a wall and it slows down. And then it slows down more. And then there's some weird editing choices where they fade away from shots and they cut things quickly. And then, okay, we're back into a somewhat decent action sequence, but then boom, wall again, and you are down for the count for a long time with these people that suck and this annoying little kid that's crying on the... There's nothing worse than listening to kids cry. And this kid cries a few times in the movie. It's like, shut up. Why am I listening to a kid cry when there's an awesome freaking lizard creature swimming around in the ocean?
Well, I'm stuck listening to a grown man cry like one. How do you think I feel, Adam? How the fuck do you think I feel? Oh my god, she's a fucking toddler. Of course they'd cry in a situation like this. If she didn't for some of the shit that's presented to her, that would be bad writing. It builds a connection with her and her adopted parents,
So this is probably a throwback, and since I'm ignorant on the originals, I find it funny that Godzilla can float. I think that's what's happening. The dude's in the middle of the ocean and he's chest deep. I know the guy's tall, but it looks like he's standing on a small, like, sandbar in the middle of the ocean. He's like up, the water's up to his belly button. Sometimes it's up to his shins, and he's in the middle of the freaking Pacific or Atlantic. I don't know where oceans are. I don't know what they're called. I'm ignorant and stupid.
Oh god, finally some self-awareness. Well, in that case, I decided I'll be a little nicer to Adam here and try to help him and find stuff he'd like. And what better recommendation would there be than reading Rainbow? Adam, I'm sorry for all the harsh words. I should have tried helping you from the start. I was mean, but please accept this gift from me as my apology. Anyway, that was the end of the video. Do I hate Adam Does Movies? No, though I certainly think he doesn't understand media literacy like he thinks he does. But if you haven't noticed, I didn't rip and tear into him like I do some, but that's because at the very least, he seems to be trying to keep it civil, and at the end of the day, we're just discussing movies here. It isn't that serious. But at the same time, I gotta entertain my audiences, and he did earn himself a bit of a spanking by spewing such dumb shit. Regardless, this review is ignorant as hell, so I felt it needed some kind of rebuttal. Plus, this gave me an opportunity to give somewhat of an analysis on this triumph of cinema outside of my podcast, because for a multitude of reasons, it'll be a while before I can give a proper Gojin review. But I will say, between Shin Kamen Rider or Godzilla Minus One, these are by far best movie of the year contestants. If you haven't gone out to see it yet, please do. It's getting Parasite levels of attention, which is not only good for the franchise, but for media as a whole, since it is yet another non-Hollywood product taking the world by storm. Most importantly though, it was a film that deserved every inch of that praise.
But hope you all enjoyed the video. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.